Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Dill, a massive matchup in the SEC. LSU coming off a huge win against Ole Miss, heading on the road to play an Arkansas team that's got a lot of momentum too. And you talk about preseason conversations around this Arkansas team, a lot of people left them for dead. Dill, this Arkansas team's been very impressive to start the 2024 season, coming off a bye, but also coming off a huge win against Tennessee at home. I think some fascinating matchups that we're going to see in this football game. But I think more importantly, it's going to be a competitive football game. At least that's what Las Vegas is telling us. LSU coming in as only 3-point favorites. Now, before we get into it, and as always, let it fly in the comment section. I think a lot of different ways you can view this football game. Would love to hear all your score predictions in the comment section. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. The amount of support for these preview prediction episodes, it's been amazing. We appreciate you guys. Dill, without further ado, I want to start with this Arkansas offense going up against an LSU defense that I'll just put my hand up, idiot. A week ago, I was blabbering on my mouth saying LSU doesn't have the personnel to do what Blake Baker wants to do. I love the Blake Baker hire, but I don't think the LSU defense gets much better in 2024 because I don't think they have the dudes. What you really forget when you talk about elite defensive coaching staffs, these players can get better as a season goes on. This was by far the best performance from a defense that I've seen at LSU in quite a long time. And you'll get people saying, well, they gave up 465 yards to Ole Miss. Ole Miss just didn't execute in the red zone. Red zone defense is a very important part of the sport. And I think more importantly, Ole Miss ran 87 plays. Like they only averaged 5.5 yards per play. This was a very good performance from an LSU defense. And I think most importantly, my biggest takeaway, how the defensive backs played the football down the field. Well, we all knew what Ole Miss was going to do. They want to attack the deeper third. They want to try to be explosive. I think this is a very big takeaway because look at what Arkansas wants to do in the passing attack. Taylen Green's average depth to target is almost 11 yards. They want to push the ball down the field as well. And LSU, with guys like Zy Alexander and Ashton Stamps, they showed me that they can kind of take care of the deeper third, which was a massive question mark coming out of the USC game. All of a sudden, this secondary probably had their best performance of the season against Ole Miss.
And that's where I think people kind of underrate what a healthy Zy Alexander means to this LSU team. I think it makes Ashton Stamps' job a little bit easier. He doesn't need to be that kind of primary number one corner. He's really risen to the occasion, kind of more in that number two role. Played really, really good football, is getting his hands on the ball, not taking as many penalties, and doing some of those things that really killed them in that USC game. So I think Zy Alexander coming back was huge. And I think you said, I mean, they're going to have their hands full because you look at guys like Armstrong, Broden, like those are really, really good guys, really good contested catch wide receivers. They've done a really, really good job making plays down the field. So again, I think this is kind of where we see if LSU's defense is the truth or if that was a little bit of a blip on the radar, because you've seen good moments from LSU's defense the past couple of weeks, but obviously that LSU game still, or USC game, I should say, still kind of
sticks. I you noted it, not taking the penalties, like playing the football in the air. Like that's development. That's like peak development. This defensive backroom for LSU getting better. I think you need a massive game from Tyrone Broden. Dill, if you want to have this Arkansas offense really reach their potential, like it's been the Andrew Armstrong show. You take a look at the target share. I mean, Andrew Armstrong has 58 targets. The next most targeted wide receiver only has 30. And Tyrone Broden, when he's been targeted so far, it's a 29% completion percentage. When he's targeted, just has had problems with drops, hasn't really made plays for the wide receiver, for the quarterbacks. This kid's really good. I think he has, I shouldn't say really good. He has the ability to be very good. He needs to be good in this football game. I think one of the other talking points here is what you're going to see in the trenches. Arkansas's offensive line is meaningfully better. They do still have a problem at right tackle. I think Arkansas fans certainly know that. They'll look at this LSU front seven. Against Ole Miss, 6 sacks, 9 tackles for loss. That was another really impressive group. And obviously, I want to include Whit Weeks in that conversation. One of the more impressive linebacker performances I've ever seen from an SEC linebacker. I think another interesting conversation is how LSU can get after the passer, but also at the same time, make sure you're keeping Taylen Green in the pocket, because when he gets out of the pocket and is able to be an athlete, he can really hurt defenses.
And that's where I think you need probably your interior guys to step up a little bit and rush more as a unit. Because again, Jackson Dart, at the end of the day, this year just hasn't been the same in terms of his
No.
escapability, his calmness in the pocket. Taylen Green, for what like the mistakes he makes making bad decisions down the field, has been elite kind of managing the pocket, getting out when he needs to, and extending plays and making things happen. Again, I think when you play this team, you need to be able to rush them as a whole, and that's where again you're dominating on the edge with your LSU. Like you look at how guys like Swinson are playing, guys like Parrish Shan, they're playing really, really good football. I think you got to see more from, frankly, those interior guys because you got to rush as a group of four when you play Taylen Green because if he gets a crack and can get out of the pocket, it doesn't matter how good one guy is rushing because he does do a good job extending plays and making it happen.
I'm very interested to see how Blake Baker decides to deal with Taylen Green. Like, are you just going to go to a lot of zones so you can keep your eyes on Taylen Green? Are you going to go to man coverage with the spy? Like, I think Whit Weeks is certainly capable of playing that spy role, but Taylen Green's a force. And that's probably the biggest key to the game. Like, you look at when Taylen Green has struggled, he struggles when he doesn't have the opportunity to extend and play a little backyard football. I thought Texas A&M did a very good job of keeping Taylen Green in the pocket for the most part. If you can do that, you put yourself in a really good chance to stop this Arkansas offense. Now, you flip the sides here, Dill. Talk about another really improved unit, this Arkansas defense. Like Travis Williams, he's probably the defensive coordinator of the year in my book. What he's done with this Arkansas defense, it's been really, really impressive. One of the things I'm looking at here, you're going to see NFL on NFL, like Landon Jackson going up against this LSU offensive tackle group, whether it's Will Campbell. Emory Jones struggled a little bit against Ole Miss, but I ain't worried about Emory Jones. I'm looking at that because when you give Garrett Nussmeier a clean pocket, which they were able to do against an Ole Miss pass rush that I think is very good, he can cut up a defense. How do you see this LSU offense, Arkansas defense matchup playing out here?
Well, and that's where I think it's tough because a lot of Arkansas's success, I think, has come from getting after quarterbacks. You saw it against A&M. You saw it certainly against Tennessee, where they did a really good job, and they were scheming things up. And that's where I think your experience as an LSU offensive line and the fact that these guys have played together so much. And again, I think Tennessee got confused. You look at what Travis Williams was able to do. He was getting linebackers free. He was getting his defensive linemen free on stunts. All those sorts of games. Now, I don't want to take anything away from what like guys like Cameron Ball and Landon Jackson can do in terms of winning their one-on-ones because they certainly both do that. But I don't know that you have a great defensive line in terms of just straight beating you 4 versus 4, if you will.
I would disagree with that. I think I think you're looking at some legit NFL dudes. I am kind of with you though. Like Arkansas does rely on a lot of different pass rush packages to get after the quarterback. And what you said, I think, is really true. Like this LSU offensive line, because they've played together. I mean, for 4 of these guys, like they've played together for the last 3 seasons. It's a very well gelled group, you might say. They don't get confused with a lot of pass rush pickups. That's going to be an interesting battle. The Travis Williams.
One fundamental issue I have with what LSU is doing on offense is they still can't run the ball, and it doesn't make any sense to me. I think this offensive line's too good. I don't know, like what you just can't figure out a running back. Josh Williams, Caden Durham, those like guys feel like they're good enough players with that offensive line. And I don't think, like again, they've been able to mitigate it because frankly, Garrett Nussmeier has just been playing out of his mind. But I don't know that it's so sustainable, and especially with how Arkansas kind of wants to do it, is they want to make you one-dimensional. I think that was something that really worked well for them, is Tennessee couldn't really run the ball, in some part, frankly, because Tennessee was taking a lot of penalties, not staying on schedule. But I think when you saw Tennessee get one-dimensional, Arkansas teed off on them.
So I've seen that take. I've seen the take that LSU can't run the football. I don't know if that's exactly true. It's more of a choice for LSU. Like they're just not running the football that often. They're running the football 38% of the time, which is 126 in the country. Caden Durham's averaging almost 7 yards per carry, I believe. That kid as a true freshman has been incredible. It's more of we just don't want to run the football. And I don't know the reason. I think maybe the reason is, hey, we love Nuss. We love our offense. This offensive line is much better in pass protection than they are blocking in the run game. There's no question about that. So there might be just an element of, hey, we want to play to our unit strength. But you're absolutely right. Like LSU just hasn't shown the willingness to want to run the football. And hey, if you're going to lean on a quarterback,
that's where I get like again, I like what LSU can do in terms of dealing with a complex defense that can come after you from a variety of different ways. But again, I kind of look, don't you want to be able to run the ball against this Arkansas team and try to see if you can slow them down and get them maybe a little bit out of their element in terms of throwing really complex kind of pass pressures on you.
Yeah, no, because that's why you run the football at the end of the day. Like, yeah, you want to run the football effectively, but Kirby Smart said in his press conference yesterday, like, you run the football so you can be two-dimensional, you can slow down some of those edge rushers. LSU just hasn't really wanted to do it for whatever reason. I'm kind of interested to see if they do, because they didn't really try to run the football against Ole Miss that often. I think that had a little bit to do with being down in the second half, but that would have been a unit you want to run the football against because Ole Miss has a really, really good pass rush. Now, LSU dealt with it, didn't give up a sack. And that's one thing I'll give Garrett Nussmeier a ton of credit for. I don't think he played his best football game against Ole Miss, but man, that kid is a magician and so comfortable with chaos in the pocket. Like how he manipulates the pocket, how he steps up. That stuff was super, super impressive. Let's get into the pick here, Dill. LSU 3-point favorites on the road against Arkansas. Who you rocking with here?
Give me the Hogs. I love the environment. I saw how electric that was. I think it's almost going to be more so because now you have like legitimate energy and hope around what this Arkansas team can be. Because even with that Tennessee game, you're still looking at like not a particularly great season potentially, obviously, some really, really tough losses. I think Sam Pittman's got this group reinvigorated. Frankly, I think we probably should talk more about how good I think Arkansas secondary is. It might be the best one that LSU's seen all year. USC is really, really good too. So I don't want to like probably close to those, but I think
I would have gone with Ole Miss over USC with secondary talk, but
Arkansas right there though. I look at what they're able to do. I don't think they give up a ton of easy stuff. I think they're really, really good getting pressure and making tackles in space. I think Arkansas, I think again, Taylen Green, if he just doesn't get sacked much, I think this Arkansas team can really move the ball against an LSU defensive line. But I'm still not convinced it's just going to take over like maybe more like Tennessee was doing.
Yeah, when you're betting Arkansas, you just got your betting on what version of Taylen Green that you're going to get.
That's true.
Dill, I'm going to take LSU. I think LSU's hot. I think more importantly, Taylen Green with the Bombers. Clearly, I would be very surprised if he's 100%. And if you do get a non-100% Taylen Green as an athlete, like that's a problem. That's been one of the biggest assets Arkansas has had. And so Taylen Green not being 100% healthy and all the momentum that you've seen with LSU, and I think more importantly, the confidence that this defense is starting to show. Give me LSU here to cover the 3 points on the road. Don't feel great about it because, quite frankly, I don't feel great about betting against this Arkansas team right now. That's where I'm going. So the boys are a little bit of a disagreement. Absolutely love it. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. Again, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys. We'll talk to y'all later.